Hello, my name is Chloe. I'm the DSC Lead here at UTSG, and welcome to the first of three Solution Designs A series, Design Sprint. Today we'll be talking about identifying your users, collaborating creatively within your teams, and ways to interview your users. So while this is usually a three-part bootcamp that would kind of happen live and in person, we've decided to deliver this asynchronously to accommodate for different time zones and different availabilities during the month of January. So each week on Google Classroom, we'll be sharing these short videos alongside a prompt for your team to complete. These prompts are to help you and your team brainstorm and design a final solution by the end of January so that in February you are ready to start developing. So let's start. Most product teams have to go through this cycle. They have to build something, go through the trouble of launching it and putting it in the hands of users, learning from those users and how they're using the product, and ideate on how they can further improve their product and then repeat. And this can be an incredibly time-consuming and expensive process, and most of the time and money is concentrated in the build and launch phases. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do an exercise called the design sprint, which outlines 6 steps to designing any solution. First, we aim to understand and define. Specifically, we want to understand and define the problem and the users who's facing this problem. Next, we're going to sketch and decide. So for this step, we're going to be ideating on ideas using pictures. Don't worry if you're not an artist, you'll just be fine. We'll kind of provide you some resources to kind of help that. And then lastly, you're going to decide as a team what is the best idea moving forward. Lastly, we prototype and validate. So this is when we build a paper prototype and use it to test our assumptions. And usually this exercise is done within product teams over the course of a 5-day work week, but we'll just be covering it briefly and complete it within your teams in just under an hour even. So what will today's prompt actually look like? First, this will be done in your teams of 4. By the time this video is out, you should have been approached with your potential team members and be planning a time to meet. For part 1, we'll try to identify the user and map out their problem. For part 2, we'll sketch solutions on a piece of paper using a method called Crazy Eights. For part 3, we'll vote on which idea to go with. Moving forward, for part 4, we're going to use an app called Marvel or Figma to create a usable prototype out of your drawn mockups. For part 5, we'll test it out on each other and see what we learned. And then for part 6 is to kind of celebrate your new idea, but we'll leave that out of this table just for explanation purposes. So the point of this workshop is to help us actually solve a problem. And for the sake of the exercise and explanation, let's say this is the problem that you want to solve. It's hard to buy hats and glasses virtually and ensure that they look and feel good while being worn. Your team should start to think of a problem you want to focus on for the solution challenge. So similarly, start to create a problem statement. If you're unsure, make sure to check out the spreadsheet we provided that gives a bunch of project ideas for the solution challenge. In the first step of solving your problem, we'll try to identify the user and map out the problem. So this will usually be a 10-minute activity where you will create 2 user personas. So here you should kind of draw your user, even provide them a name, write a few characteristics that help define them as a user of your product. This will help in communicating their personas. So an example of a persona for the problem example that I gave is maybe there's a student named Fred who recently learned that they require glasses when doing their schoolwork online. How can Fred go upon finding the perfect frame that fits them when shopping online? So this goes to part 2, where we'll be doing Crazy Eights. Each member of a team should take a piece of paper and fold it up like you see on the screen. In 8 minutes, each member should write an idea down in each rectangle. This is generating 8 ideas, hence the name Crazy Eights. So when you're generating these ideas and writing them down, try to keep in mind the problem and the user, but be sure to draw or write down any ideas that come into your mind completely unfiltered. This will help keep creative juices flowing and ensure that you don't get stuck within the problem statement you're given. Next, put all the ideas down on a white table or put it together as a team. It's time to vote. This will be done using the dot voting system, and each team member kind of gets 3 votes. So they can vote for whatever they want as many times as they want. And the idea with the most votes wins. And that would be the idea that you would decide as a team to move forward with. So now that you have an idea, it's time to prototype. As a team, you should decide what the different views in the product should be, then draw them out with a marker on paper and use an app, maybe like Figma or Marvel as shown on the screen to string them together into a usable, testable prototype. So you should have around 20 minutes for this step as a team. Don't make it super detailed as this is just a rough prototype. At step 5, we'll be almost done. Here we would have a prototype and it's time to test. So doing this online may be difficult, but reach out to similar users and tell them what you are building. For example, in the problem I identified, there was a persona of a student. So in this case, I'd reach out to any peer and ask them what they think of my project. This can be done by asking in various student Discord servers like DSC, or I would send out a survey on my social media, or even just ask a friend through a video call. Once you're done testing, come together as a team and discuss what you learned, and continue doing this process multiple times, as it can provide a lot of new insight and ideas for your solution. So now that you know the whole process of the solution, it's time to practice it within your teams. Following the same prompts within your team, finalize the problem statement you are focusing on and start to make some prototypes. I encourage you to share your results in Google Classroom and ask any questions you have throughout on Discord. So we recognize that finding a problem can be really difficult. Feel free to look at this resource, Identify the Problem by DSC. Here they share 3 important methods to finding a problem. One is interviewing students and professors on campus. 2 is approach local businesses or NGOs. And 3 is speak to people in your local community to find a shared problem you can solve. Now that we're all in like kind of an online atmosphere, there is a lot of local communities and local businesses that are struggling to transition online. So this itself can be a whole opportunity. So I encourage you to explore new opportunities outside of just our campus. As well, we have our spreadsheet where you can gain some inspiration or even provide some prompts to help other teams looking for ideas. If you're looking for another resource talking about the 6-part solution framework that I talked about today, check out this video, Identify Solution. All of these are going to be linked alongside the next steps for your team on Google Classroom. If you run into any issues or have additional questions, make sure to check us out on Discord via the Solution Challenge channels as shown. These are private channels specifically for project members and leads to reach out to the DSC exec team throughout the Solution Challenge. So I encourage you to ask your questions there, but if not, feel free to privately message a mentor. So best of luck. Make sure to check out the prompt on Google Classroom for your team. Today, you'll be finalizing your problem statement and brainstorming on an idea with your team. We can't wait to see what you come up with. Best of luck.